Well, I think, you know, as humans, we don't realize that we can't pull out one piece of the puzzle without having the whole thing collapse.
Yeah.
And we tend to want to get rid of those things that give us trouble, or we don't think about a certain element of the whole ecosystem enough, and so we create a whole that cannot be supported. And that's what's happening with pollinators and things like that. We don't realize that that's where our food is coming from, because without pollination you don't have fruit set or what you need to continue going on.
I'm Mica Marder, and I'm here with Tamson Yeh from
Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County.
And we are bug enthusiasts, and you're a bug scientist, or?
I do a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, and I run this 2-acre property next to, it's in East Hampton, New York, Springs, East Hampton, New York, and we are about a 1/4 mile outside of Accabonac Harbor, outside of Gardiner's Bay, and we are trying to bring in the pollinators, the beneficial insects, and basically we're trying to bring in as much biodiversity in plants and insects as possible. Over time, we've developed more and more native wildflowers, some non-natives, but we're trying to bring in food and get rid of any kind of invasive species of plant and that's going to dominate the landscape, and we're trying to bring in a large biodiversity of insects, plants, and animals. We've deer fenced it all off. We were only able to get this to grow the way it is by doing that. When we started, the deer had the second day of germination, when the plants, all the wildflowers and seed mix were about this high. The deer came in and basically mowed the whole property. And when we were here, you could see them in the distance waiting for us to leave. So it's taken a lot of time for us to keep working on this, getting different perennial wildflowers to make it through the winter and establish, and at the same time edit some of the invasive weeds. But we were going to take a look with Tamson at some of the pollinators and insects, and she was going to help us get more of a clear picture on of the project.
My name is Tamson Yeh, and I'm with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County. We work with county properties which are under a pesticide phase-out, but one of the things we try to do is to encourage people to provide spaces for pollinators, plants that will appeal to the pollinators, and to make sure the pollinators have something to eat all 3 times of the season. One of the most important times when there's really a dearth of food for them is early in the season, and that encompasses a lot of the ground nesting bees and things like that that are pretty important. So the nice thing about a space like this is that you have food for them not only in the middle of the season, which is what we're in right now, but you have food at the beginning and you have food at the end. Another important thing that's been included here are warm season grasses, which are important for pollinators, for house building, not so much food, but for house building and for shelter. If you are going to mow a field like this, you would never mow it when the temperature is cool or in the evening, because insects don't move very fast if they can't warm themselves up in the environment. So by carefully managing something like this, which has obviously been done here, you're providing the best of all possible worlds. And another thing that has to be done is you have to make sure that there is some moisture for both your plants and for your insects, because if not, the invasive plants will tend to take over.
Did you take a dip net through here?
Of course.
Or I don't know if that's called a dip net, or what would they call that? What's the
it's a
word in the trade?
It's an insect net. So let's see what we can have.
So Tamson, you're not trying to get a bug, you're just blindly netting it anywhere.
That's right.
And
I'm seeing what I can get. I'm going to open this up. We have a nice diverse field here of pollinating plants, and plants for pollinators, and we're going to see what we got on this random
There's
sweep.
another grasshopper.
There's a shorthorn grasshopper.
Shorthorn grasshopper. Oh, there's a lot of those in there. Are those more of those, or they look darker?
Oh, I'm sure there are more of them.
Some kind of fly.
Yes, flies are very beneficial. People don't realize that because, and there's a little spider right there. It's a crab spider. Flies are very beneficial. They're great predators, and people don't like flies. And there's a lady beetle. Check it out.
Is that a native species right there?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Whoop, there goes a shorthorn grasshopper. It might be another kind too, and I'd have to double check on the spots here.
I
We're
gotcha.
just seeing what we've got, and we have a beautiful dragonfly. I'm going to see if I can get that out. Dragonflies eat on the wing. They're really, really fabulous predators, and so that also helps to keep the biological balance going of your.
As far as the dragonflies, are they feeding on mosquitoes just as much as birds, purple martins, and other species of birds, or is it?
Honestly, I don't know the statistics of that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to grab him out here without hurting him or her, as the case may be.
Yeah,
but
it's tricky. They got those.
it's all part of the biological. Oh, what a beauty! Dragonflies are very special because they can move all four of their wings separately, and that's unusual. Shall I let the dragonfly go and be free?
Yes, that's
Here you go.
great.
All right, let's see if there's anything else exciting.
We've got an inchworm. That's great. Yeah, I'm excited. I see something in there.
So one of the fantastic things we see in here, we see some small bees, and they actually have pollen on them. You can see that from that bright color. Is on flowers like this, there's actually a landing strip in the center. You see the color change there? Bees see different colors than we do. They see different spectra, and so this is actually a landing strip for them, which will guide them to the pollen and nectar in the center of the flower. If you see something that looks like a bee, but has only two wings, that's actually a syrphid fly, and they're excellent pollinators and predators as well. So there goes one of those yellow bees now, and there goes another one.
Would it be a sweat bee species, ground bee, or leaf cutter? Or
no,
hard to say?
no, a native bee of some sort. I'm not sure which one, but you can see how much
fly. There
pollen
goes
they
another
have
fly.
on them. Look there, how
Oh,
pretty.
yeah.
Look how yellow.
Very
That's
cool.
very cool. And there is a longhorn grasshopper who just hopped away, and another bee. So look at how many bees we got just from that one scoop session. So that means that your pollinator garden is working very well to provide food and habitat and shelter and just a perfect environment
This one right there.
for you. Yes, this is a longhorn
this one right
grasshopper.
here.
Oh, this is a true bug. This is an assassin bug, and this is a good guy. He will definitely take out some of the things you don't want in your pollinator garden. Let's see what else we have here. Here we have, and my coordination is terrible, we have a damsel bug. That's also an excellent predator, and away that one goes. And we'll see what else we may have in here. We may be coming to the end of our excitement.
Is it a ladybug?
There might be a ladybug in
I saw
there.
some kind of beetle.
Yeah, the nice thing is even the very tiny things, yes, there's a little beetle there, that's probably a little leaf beetle, which may not be beneficial, but even the tiny ants, they all do their part to provide pest control and to provide diversity, and even very small insects can do a heck of a job of pollinating or providing food for other things that give you diversity.
So, as far as spraying a chemical that's basically killing a lot of insects in the area, you might be making the pest problem worse.
Yes, if you're not careful with what you're using and you're using something that's broad spectrum, not targeted towards a specific thing, you can end up taking out a good deal of beneficials.
Yeah.
Or you can also, if you use the same product over and over again, you can create a problem with resistance. But again, it's on a case-by-case basis, so
Okay.
it depends on what you're looking at.
What's your take on European honeybees as far as taking food from native bees? Or
Our problem is that all of our bees, European, non-native, and native bees, are in trouble because of habitat loss,
yeah.
because of what we're using to treat with, and in some cases just because of the plants that we plant. A lot of the hybrid varieties, like double-flowered plants, they don't have the pollen and the nectar, or people want particular colors, or they don't want bees because they're afraid of them.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, either plant things that are not attractive to them, or they don't have enough food. So I think everything is in trouble.
When you say pollinators, we're talking about a wide variety of species of insects. We're not just
Huge.
talking about
Yeah.
the European honeybee.
Yeah.
And I believe the native bees are supposedly 70% more efficient in pollinating plants.
Yes, because
And-
they're adapted.
Yeah, I think that the honeybees are just more of a better communicator, or maybe not better.
They get press because that's what we've been hearing about. But we can't forget that flies are extremely important pollinators. Wasps are important
Flies,
pollinators.
beetles.
Beetles are important pollinators. Ants can pollinate.
Yeah.
Bats can pollinate.
Yep.
Hummingbirds can pollinate. There's more than just the honeybee. We have to look at it as an entire
Yes, and I think
picture.
that's what we're trying to cultivate here on this property. It's called the Marders Pollinator Sanctuary, but I think it's more than just we're trying to bring in all these species and let them be in here and help and have it a balanced.
And allow it to speak for itself as a form of awareness.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
How do we do?
We got different things.
Different things.
Yes. So
Nice.
that's good. You have excellent diversity here. I believe this time we may have caught a robber fly, who are excellent thugs in the bug world and are very, very good predators. And you only find them in areas that have a very, very good habitat.
Is that a mosquito hawk? Or is that
No, mosquito
horsefly?
hawk. This is no, this is actually I think this is a type of robber fly. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to see if I can get him to stay in place.
Tricky.
Yes, that's a robber fly. He's got a little hump on his back. It's very hard to see. And also, robber flies have got a space between their eyeballs. But this is fantastic because this means that your habitat here is really, really good.
Is that because it's an indicator species, or it's a sensitive?
It's not sensitive, but it's an indicator species that you have plenty of diversity. And like I said, one thing when you're redoing your own habitat around your home, when the robber flies start to come back, that's an indicator that you're doing things right. And
Okay.
then the rest of these are seeds. So we have plenty of seeds going on. And in the back there, towards the building, we have a thistle, which is a fantastic thing for both insects and for birds. And the native thistle obviously is going to service a lot more things than the non-natives.
Let's look for another wasp, because wasps are kind of, I think they're
that's a
kind of
dragonfly there. Yes.
easy to look down upon when you see a wasp, and there's so many different kinds of wasps, and they're just all general. People see them and they say, oh, that's a wasp, don't get stung, or
The more
they're bad.
wasps you have, the better off you will be with this kind of setup, with any kind of garden setup.
Yeah.
Because they're predators, they're pollinators, and they are just all around good things to have, even though people are afraid of them. One of the best situations that you have here is you have an ecotone, which is basically a transition point between the woods and the field, and you have a beautiful ecotone here, and you also have overwintering sites for your bees in that pile of brush right there. Brush piles are much more important than people realize
Yep.
as overwintering and places to hide. The concept of the biostream is important too, not to have a monoculture of everything. A biostream gives your beneficials someplace to hide. And also, when you're planting your pollinator plants, try to put them in clusters like you have here, because that means there's less energy expended by the pollinator trying to find food from one place to the other.
Ah, yeah. Oh, one of the other things we were running into is that we were doing a lot of tilling and cultivating the soil here, and I feel like that in that process we might have killed a lot of ground nesting bees, ground nesting hornets. So now we're trying to bring them back in, and we have certain designated areas that we're not going to do that anymore and cultivate, that we're hoping to give them a safe haven for the ground nesting. And
Many species of bees and wasps are annual colonies, in that the queen will go and overwinter, but she won't overwinter in the ground. Other insects will overwinter in the ground. The queen will usually overwinter underneath a piece of bark or under a loose shingle or under a rock or something like that. But one of the big problems with cultivating at the wrong time of year is that you turn up all the invasive weed seeds. Many of our invasive weeds are summer annuals, so by doing that at the wrong time, you'll end up with more pressure from that or from invasive plants. But certainly the less that you can disturb the ground, the better off you will be.
We're not necessarily trying to get rid of, in this area, rid of all the non-natives,
Right.
but at least to get a good biodiversity of natives to
things that are non-native. This is the borage plant is also a very good thing to include in your plant mixtures for pollinator or beneficial insect gardens. They list that one.
I'd hate to interrupt you, but there's a crazy wasp. There's 2 crazy wasps on the. You see, right there. Yeah. It's like it almost looks like a dragonfly.
Yeah, I think that might be an ichneumoniid wasp.
They're good at That one's quite a impressive looking wasp.
Crazy wasp for you.
Do you know the species?
This one is either in the mud dauber group or it's an ichneumoniid wasp. I think this is a relative of the mud dauber. See how it's a thread-waisted wasp, which I think the family is Sphaecidae, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's definitely a thread-waisted wasp. See how the body comes down to almost nothing in the middle?
Yeah, very
tiny
cool. Segment.
Yes, very beneficial. They will prey on small insects and spiders, and they will provision their nests with them.
So are these also the parasitizing ones? They take them down into there and lay the eggs in them?
Yes.
Okay. And they'll, so these are the ones you want in your garden because they're going to be feeding on all the caterpillars, and I'm sure they give a pretty good sting, right?
No, they're very docile. He may fly away, or she may fly away.
Yeah, that's probably a tricky.
Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can get...
Should we keep walking? I know there's a little poison ivy over here that I do want to get rid of, but maybe not rid of.
It's a native plant, so
yeah, we can't get rid of all the poison ivy.
And it's great for soil conservation too.
Is it?
Yes.
What is it? A nitrogen fixer? Or,
no, its root system and its foliage cover everything up so you don't lose as much soil.
Water retention and.
Yes.
These white butterflies here.
Those are cabbage butterflies, and actually they're not beneficial. Cabbage butterflies have a caterpillar that will happily chow down on either.
I know the caterpillar because it's always on my. Was it on? Well, cabbage. I think broccoli. It's always on broccoli.
Anything in the cabbage family. Yes. Yeah. And so they'll eat beneficial plants and they'll eat your vegetable garden. But they're part of the food chain. They do make up part of somebody's lunch or dinner or breakfast. So there's a very beautiful longhorn grasshopper.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and grasshoppers, they can do damage if they're around in quantity, but if they're just the occasional ones like we're finding here, they're part of the menu, so to speak.
Balancing.
And there's another one.
Balancing out by other insects that will come and eat them, and birds, and
that's correct.
Your beneficials will come and counter. They need food. So.
Yeah, there we go.
There's a flower over here that I wanted to talk about. See that orange flower in the distance? It's a kind of milkweed. I can't remember the name.
It's a butterfly weed.
It's a butterfly weed.
Yes.
That used to be all around when I was younger, and I don't see it now.
Habitat loss. Mowing. Yes.
And going for monoculture and that's a unique native, and
yes, that's an important one to have as part of your.
It seems like it's a good food source. I could see there's some bees or something on it right now.
Yes. Yep, definitely.
These are the black walnut seeds. I think probably the squirrels spread them around.
We'll smell it because.
Is it the black walnut? Because there's another one over here.
That is a black walnut. You can tell by the smell.
The smell gives that juglin smell,
Yes, it has a kind of a spicy
So we'll let those grow up, and maybe we'll transplant them, or we'll let them grow. And that's the beauty of this. It's always changing and balancing, and you're always seeing other things that are getting brought in. And
And that's something that a homeowner, if they're trying this out for the first time, they may not understand that it's not a static.
It's not instant gratification.
And it's also not a static
Yeah.
thing. It's always changing, but it takes about 3 to 5 years to really establish it to the way it probably should be. So you have to be patient with it. This is porcelainberry. This is another invasive plant, and this has a huge problem along the sides of the road. It was originally introduced as an ornamental.
And then another one we're trying to get rid of is the mugwort, which is a great weed, but it's a really invasive, difficult weed to get rid of, but medicinal, and but it's quite hard to get rid of. I think I've said we're trying to bring in everything as far as biodiversity and insects and birds. We were trying to bring in the box turtle, eastern box turtle, and a problem with deer fencing the whole property off was that if you deer fence the whole property off, obviously you're not going to be able to get the turtles to come in, because the deer fence, they're not going to be able to fit through the deer fence, and if the deer fence is done correctly, the turtles won't be able to smush under the deer fence. So what we did here is we used, I think that's like a 9-gauge galvanized wire, and it's about a 8-inch by 8-inch square hole, and we've turned it actually upside down so the turtles could get through, and we can still let traffic go through. If everybody deer fenced their property in, which can sometimes happen, you're going to close off a lot of land to the turtles, and I know the turtles are having a hard time with habitat loss, so we want to keep this open to those species too.
One of the things that really helps to increase biodiversity of creatures is to have a couple of logs hanging around. Turtles like to dig themselves under logs because it's cool and it gives them protection, and also there are multitudes of insects that like an old log lying around, and there are many things that will peck on the log to eat the insects. And also, as the log rots, it provides a perfect nursery for other plants, trees, shrubs, etc. And people needn't be afraid of having allergies to goldenrod. It's not the goldenrod that causes the allergies, it's actually ragweed. Goldenrod has heavy sticky pollen which falls to the ground, so don't be afraid to plant it because you have allergies.
That's the one that everyone can blame a lot of allergies on. Light pollen that drifts through the air, and not the goldenrod.
The little pond will be a source of the dragonfly nymphs and damselfly nymphs, which prey on mosquitoes and other biting flies. And will also be a source for spiders, because spiders can catch insects that are around the water. There are several types of specialized spiders that do that.
Okay, so this is our pond.
It's so important to have a water source to couple with your pollinator site here, because the water source serves as a place for maturation for the nymphs of the dragonflies and other aquatic, semi-aquatic insects. It also serves some unique plants like these rushes here. The rushes have a round stem, and then we've got a food source here in the little seed heads, which is important. And you also have a unique opportunity to be able to grow emergent plants that are partially aquatic and partially on land, and they will produce flowers that will bring in another cadre of insects and diversity. A lot of your wildlife needs to have a water source too, particularly since we seem to be having more and more droughty summers. So this is critical, I think.
And then as far as we were talking a little bit earlier about your mosquito.
Yes.
When it's in the larva stage, what will consume that? Will that be your dragonfly larva?
Dragonfly larvae, frogs. You could definitely have frogs, or any kind of
tadpole.
Tadpoles will eat them. Birds will eat them. Spiders will eat them. Anything that is basically either in the water or at the edge of the water will definitely eat them.
I got to thank Tamson for her time and we're torturing her out here. And
Torture is good.
yeah, exactly. And so I thank you for your time and
No problem.
and educating us and answering our questions, and be great to maybe have you back another time when this evolves into a, who knows, different plants, and however we however it sculpts its or changes over time. But
Photo
yeah.
document. And write down your observations.
Yep,
It's a great
will
adventure.
do.